Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time we're going to be jumping into
Oh, yeah.
Dostoevsky.
Dostoevsky.
We've got The Gambler in front of us, and then also his short story, Bobok.
Yeah. Well, with The Gambler, what's so interesting is that Dostoevsky was writing this under an intense deadline.
Oh, wow.
He had to get it done.
Yeah.
His publisher was, I guess you could say, breathing down his neck.
Yeah.
And he needed the money, too.
Right. Yeah.
So he was under a lot of pressure.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And that kind of mirrors what we see in the story, right?
Yeah.
With Alexei Ivanovich, who's this young tutor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's caught up in this world of gambling and love and family drama.
Uh-huh.
And it's all happened while he's working for this crazy Russian family in Roulettenberg.
Right, which is this fictional German spa town.
Okay.
But here's where it gets even more interesting.
Yeah.
Remember how Dostoevsky was under all this pressure writing The Gambler?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out he was dealing with his own gambling addiction at the time.
Oh, wow, really?
There are these letters he wrote to his wife
Oh, my God.
from casinos, begging for money because he had lost everything.
Wow. So it's like we can like feel that desperation that he was feeling in those letters coming through in the story in Alexei's desperation at the roulette wheel.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
The parallels between Dostoevsky's own life and Alexei's are pretty striking.
Yeah.
And they add this whole psychological depth to the story that's hard to ignore. And Alexei himself, I mean, he is a really interesting character.
Oh, he is.
He's so passionate and reckless and completely head over heels in love with Lena, who's part of the family he works for. Remember that line where he says, "Upstairs in my little cell, I have only to remember and imagine the merest rustle of your dress, and I am ready to gnaw my hands off."
Oh, my gosh, yes.
So intense.
Yeah.
Talk about a tortured romance, right? But what I find so interesting about Alexei is that he's self-aware.
Yes.
He knows his flaws.
He does.
He sees the contradictions in himself.
Right.
But he just can't seem to escape them.
Yeah.
It's like Dostoevsky saying something about all of us as humans.
Yeah.
We all have these destructive patterns.
Right.
And we recognize them.
Yes.
But we still go back to them over and over again.
It's like we're drawn to them almost.
We are.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've got Mademoiselle Blanche.
Oh, yes.
Who's this other huge player in this whole drama.
She is a force.
She's captivating and manipulative.
Yes.
A classic femme fatale.
Right.
I mean, she basically bleeds the general dry.
Oh, yeah, she does.
Financially.
She does.
She is quite a character.
But she also points to something bigger, I think, about wealth and status in 19th century Russia.
I see that.
It's like she represents both the allure and the danger of it all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Preying on the general's desperation to hold on to his social standing. And Dostoevsky's comedic timing is just brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in that scene where the general's aunt, Antonina Vasilievna, shows up.
Oh, my gosh.
Totally out of the blue.
Right.
Throws a wrench into Mademoiselle Blanche's plans.
Yeah. I was laughing out loud when I read that.
Yeah.
When the aunt shows up and she's like demanding to know why everyone thinks she's dead.
Yeah.
It's just so funny.
It's great.
But The Gambler isn't just about the thrill of the game.
No.
It's about so much more than that.
Yeah.
It's about obsession and self-destruction.
Yeah.
And all those social dynamics around wealth and class.
It's about what we're willing to risk.
Yeah.
You know, for that chance to escape reality.
Right.
Even if it means losing everything.
Yeah.
And the roulette wheel itself almost becomes like a symbol for this chaotic force in life.
I can see that.
You know, the risks we take. Driven by our desires.
Yeah. So I think The Gambler really forces us to ask ourselves, what are we willing to risk for that fleeting moment of pleasure?
Yeah.
For the chance to escape reality, even if it means losing everything.
Yeah, it makes you think about all those times in our own lives where we've been tempted by, you know, that gamble, whether it's a risky investment or a relationship or anything that just promises like a quick fix or a temporary escape from our problems.
Absolutely.
But let's switch gears for a minute and talk about Bobok.
Okay.
Which takes us in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
But it's just as fascinating.
It is.
So Bobok, it's a shorter piece than The Gambler.
Yeah.
Much darker, but also with this like surprisingly comedic edge.
It really is.
And it centers around this guy who overhears a conversation between corpses.
Okay.
Who haven't quite lost consciousness after death.
Right.
And what they're talking about is not your typical postmortem chit-chat.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It really is.
What they're discussing is this newfound freedom from shame and morality.
It's like death has liberated them from all the rules.
Right.
And expectations of society.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, one of them is even excited for his own memorial service.
Yeah.
So he can listen to his family's fake grief.
I know.
And laugh at their hypocrisy.
It's so darkly funny.
It is.
But it also raises all these questions.
Yeah.
About consciousness and morality and the meaning of life and death.
Exactly. So Bobuck, like the gambler, forces us to confront these darker, often absurd aspects of human nature.
Right.
It's like Dostoevsky's holding up a mirror to society.
He is.
Showing us our own hypocrisy and shallowness.
Yeah, I love that image of the mirror.
It's powerful.
It is. Yeah. It's like he's forcing us to look at ourselves and see what's really there.
Right. And sometimes what's there isn't pretty.
No, sometimes it's not.
But it's important to see it.
It is.
Right.
So we can understand ourselves better.
Exactly. And maybe make some changes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's amazing how both these stories, The Gambler and Bobuck, really explore this idea of self-deception.
Yeah, like the characters, they're always struggling with their own illusions.
Yeah, and trying to convince themselves and everyone else of something that's just not true.
Yeah, like the general.
Oh, yeah.
He's clinging to this idea of being wealthy and respectable. Even though Mademoiselle Blanche is manipulating him.
Totally.
And draining him of everything.
He's so desperate to keep his social status that he just ignores the obvious.
Right. It's like classic self-deception.
It is.
Fueled by pride and fear.
Absolutely.
The fear of losing everything. And then in Bobuck, we see a different kind of self-deception.
Okay, yeah.
With the corpses. They're holding on to these remnants of their former selves.
Right.
Like all these little social dramas and gossip.
Yeah, like death hasn't quite sunk in yet.
Right. They're desperately trying to hold on to their past identities.
All right. Yeah, even though it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Like that scene where the one corpse is bragging about his exploits with Mademoiselle Fury.
I know. It's so funny.
It's hilarious.
But also kind of sad.
Yeah, it's tragic.
This attempt to recapture the past.
Right. It makes you think about what we cling to in our own lives.
Yeah.
Like those stories we tell ourselves.
Right.
To avoid facing the truth.
Right. Are we all capable of this kind of self-deception?
Even if it's not as dramatic as Dostoevsky's characters.
I think so. I think Dostoevsky was a master at showing these psychological weaknesses that we all have.
Right, like those darker parts of human nature.
Yeah, the ways we lie to ourselves and others.
Right.
And the truths that are hidden beneath the surface.
It's unsettling, but also really thought-provoking.
It is.
Like his work stays with you.
Yeah.
Speaking of unsettling.
Okay.
The ending of The Gambler really surprised me.
What did you think of Alexei's transformation?
I don't know. It was so sudden.
It was a shock.
But when you think about his obsession, it makes sense.
Yeah. He wins a fortune at roulette.
Right.
And then just blows it all on Mademoiselle Blanche.
It's like he's repeating the general's mistakes.
Exactly. A cycle of addiction and self-sabotage.
That he can't escape.
It's like he's doomed.
Yeah, and his time in Paris with Mademoiselle Blanche.
Yeah.
It's so strange how he describes it.
What do you mean?
Like there's this detachment as he descends into madness. It's like he's both the gambler and the observer.
Interesting.
You know, caught in this whirlwind of chaos.
Yeah.
I remember that line.
Which one?
Where he says, you'll never, never make your fortune.
Oh, yeah.
It's haunting.
It is.
It's like he knows it's all futile.
Right. That real happiness can't be found in money or pleasure.
Right. And so Dostoevsky leaves us with this question.
Yeah.
Can we ever really break free from our patterns?
That's the question, isn't it?
Or are we destined to keep making the same mistakes?
Driven by our desires and weaknesses.
Yeah, it's a question that resonates.
It does.
Especially after reading these two stories.
Right. It makes us think about our own motivations.
Our choices.
What are we willing to risk?
For a moment of pleasure or escape?
I think both The Gambler and Bobuck challenge us to confront the absurdity of being human.
Yeah.
We have these deep desires.
But we're blind to the consequences.
We're stuck between freedom and fate.
Always searching for meaning.
In a world that often feels meaningless.
It's like Dostoevsky's holding up a mirror to society again.
There's that mirror again.
Showing us all our flaws.
Our contradictions.
But there's also hope in his work.
I think so.
Like a recognition of the human spirit.
Yeah, that ability to grow and change.
Even in the face of absurdity and despair.
Absolutely. You see it in Alexei at the end.
Right.
When he realizes he wants something more
than the pleasures of the casino.
And even in Bobak, with all the dark humor, there's this search for truth.
For authenticity.
Even in death.
It's like even when we were facing our own mortality.
Yeah.
There's still this potential for growth.
To find something beyond ourselves.
It's incredible to think that he wrote The Gambler in just 26 days.
It's amazing.
Under so much pressure.
It's a testament to his talent.
And his discipline.
He was facing an impossible deadline.
And financial ruin.
But he still created a masterpiece.
That people are still reading today.
Makes you wonder what drove him.
Yeah, what fueled his creativity.
Maybe it was the pressure itself.
The urgency.
Yeah.
Or maybe his own struggles.
His inner demons.
Allowed him to tap into something deeper.
The rawness of human experience.
It shows that limitations can sometimes lead to greatness.
I think that's a good lesson.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Dostoevsky, it's clear he wasn't just a writer.
He was so much more.
He was a psychologist.
A philosopher.
A keen observer of human nature.
He didn't just tell stories.
He explored the depths of the human psyche.
Her hopes.
Contradictions. And he didn't shy away from the darkness.
But he also showed us the beauty.
The grace.
The moments that remind us of our shared humanity.
It's like he leaves us with more questions than answers. But I think that's what makes his work so powerful.
Yeah, it sticks with you.
You keep thinking about it.
Definitely, it's not about finding easy answers.
Right, it's about grappling with the big questions.
The complexities of life and death and everything.
And going back to that idea of self-deception, it's something we can all relate to.
Absolutely.
Like, what are the illusions we're clinging to in our own lives?
Right, what are those little lies we tell ourselves?
It's like Dostoevsky is holding up a mirror to us.
Showing us our own blind spots.
Like the general blinded by Mademoiselle Blanche.
Oh, yeah, completely infatuated.
But haven't we all been there at some point?
Probably attracted to something that wasn't good for us.
Even when we knew better.
I think Dostoevsky was really good at that.
At what?
Showing those flawed characters.
Making us question their choices.
Like Alexei, he knows Polina is manipulating him.
He sees how cruel she can be.
But he's still drawn to her.
Yeah, he can't help himself.
He even says, I simply don't care whether it's silly or clever.
Right, like logic goes out the window when desire takes over.
It's that power of desire.
It can be overwhelming.
It can blind us to everything else.
You see it with the general, too.
Oh, yeah, he's totally under Mademoiselle Blanche's spell.
And then when his aunt shows up...
Antonina Vassilyevna.
Right.
What a character.
I know. It's like this whole comedy of errors.
Dostoevsky was brilliant at mixing humor and tragedy.
He can make you laugh one minute.
And break your heart the next.
Do you remember that scene where the general is trying to get his aunt to leave the casino?
And she just yells, rubbish, I'll win it all back. Take me there. Call those blockheads.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It's so funny, but so sad.
Yeah, you see the general's life falling apart.
And he's helpless to stop it.
And then there's Bobak.
Those talking corpses.
Their self-deception is on another level.
It's almost macabre. They're dead, but they're still gossiping and bragging.
Like nothing has changed.
It's a commentary on how trivial our concerns can be.
Even in the face of death.
Dostoevsky really makes us think about what matters.
What we carry with us.
What illusions we hold on to.
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah. But it's also kind of freeing to think about it.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you want to strip away all the BS.
Be more honest with yourself.
Live a more authentic life.
I think that's one of the most important things Dostoevsky teaches us.
Yeah, he's not preaching or giving us easy answers.
He's just inviting us to look inward.
To question our assumptions.
Examine our choices.
So as you go about your day,
okay,
maybe think about this.
Yeah.
What are the Bobaks whispering in your ear?
Those little voices tempting you with distractions.
What's holding you back from living a more meaningful life?
That's a good question to ask yourself.
This deep dive into Dostoevsky has been quite a journey.
It has.
We've explored desire and self-deception.
The absurdity of it all.
It's been intense and thought-provoking.
And sometimes funny.
I think Dostoevsky would like that.
I think so too.
He was a master at showing us our flaws.
Our contradictions.
But he also reminded us of our potential.
For growth and change.
So as we wrap things up.
Okay.
I hope you'll take these insights with you.
Question your assumptions.
Embrace complexity.
Never stop searching for truth.
And maybe with a little Dostoevsky in our lives,
yeah,
we can avoid becoming gamblers ourselves.
Caught in those cycles of self-destruction.
Thanks for joining us on this literary adventure.
Until next time, keep those minds churning and those hearts open.